Hi, I'm Randy Wooden, and welcome to another in our Edge Library series. This time talking to young professionals and dealing with a question you may not get that often, but you might get it, and I wanted to make sure we at least touched on it, and that is this. What did you make in your last or most recent position? Now, as a young professional, let's assume first of all that you're in college or this will be your first job and you really don't have a salary history to fall back on. If that's the case, then that's certainly what you want to tell them. Just want to come out and explain that this will be my first job out of college. Yes, I held some odd jobs to help fund my schooling or to help put gas in the car and that sort of thing, but it's not a career type position. So I think most employers will understand that. But let's say you're a young professional. Maybe you've been out 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 years or so, and perhaps you've had 1 or 2 or even 3 positions. Now, you and I both know that if the economy's tough, maybe there are no jobs in your particular field, and you go do something else, maybe even on a contract basis or something that helps to pay some bills but really isn't a career-oriented sort of job, but it's just something you did. A lot of times people work in restaurants. They wait tables. It's a job, doesn't pay great, but it brings money in. Or they may work in retail in some way, shape, or form, but it's ultimately not something that they really want to do, and certainly not something that they went to school specifically to pursue. So let's assume you've been out a few years now, a couple, 3, 4, 5 maybe, and they ask you about your salary history. Again, we're going to go back to that stoplight analogy that I used in the "what are you looking for" question. It still is appropriate here. You've got a red light, yellow light, and a green light. The green light, dodge the question, change the subject. Yellow light is sort of address it, but blow it off. You really don't want to go into detail. And the red light is stop and deal with it. Obviously, they want to know. Now, this all assumes that you haven't had to put this information down on an application, either online or somewhere else. Let's just assume you're actually now hearing this question for the first time from the company. So you're there, they say, well, tell me, what did you make in your last position? I'd go back to the college answer if it was a temporary, short-term sort of job, maybe low hourly wage, that sort of thing, and say it was not a job, if you will. It was just something to do while I continued to look for a position. But let's say you did have what I'd call a real job. Let's say it was something that on paper looks like, oh, it's a pretty good job. And now you're simply trying to better yourself, or maybe you lost that job for some reason and now need to re-enter the workforce. Let's take that last scenario. This is you've had a good job or a decent job and it's time to make a change. Green light is to say that I was paid fairly for what I did, and certainly it would anticipate that being the case wherever I'd go, and then change the subject, ask them about this new position. Yellow light is to say that I was paid fairly for what I did. This, though, is a different company, perhaps even a different position, and I'm sure that the compensation would be different, might even be lower. I don't know at this point. We haven't talked it through enough yet, but I'm sure we'll be able to work something out. The red light is to tell them what you made. What I would try to do is to be as evasive as possible. I don't want to come out and say I made $46,500. I think I would say I was in the upper 40s, that sort of thing. Again, keep in mind, you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot. If you clearly believe this job to be below pay-wise where you have been, then if you're going to err on talking about what you used to make, and let's say you made 46, then I'd say, well, I made in the 40s. Because logically, the employer will hear something or assume something in the lower 40s, and if this job is a lower 40s job, then it makes sense. Because really what's going on here is just like with the other money question of what are you looking for, they're trying to determine, are you likely to fit within their salary structure without a whole lot of pain? That's really what they're trying to figure out. It also speaks a little bit to your qualifications. I know back when I used to be a recruiter, if somebody was earning way above or way below what the range was for the position, fair or not, we deem them to be under or overqualified for that job. I mean, it's just part of how we process information. And so very often employers still stick to that, and it can be a challenging question for you. So remember, green light, yellow light, red light. If you've got to give them numbers, try to give it to them in a range. And you can even work in other phrases too to say that certainly what I made in my past position, that job doesn't exist anymore. And I'm certainly at a point where I understand and accept the fact that if I'm going to make a change to a different industry or a different career, that I need to be open and flexible as as it pertains to salary. And I'm sure we'll be able to work that out. Let's see if we're a good fit and then talk it through. So that's how you might handle it as a young professional, the question of what is your salary history, or what did you make in your last position. That's going to wrap it up for this in our Edge Library series. I'm Randy Wooden. Thanks for watching.